On this week's episode of A Drier Dose of Disney, Jared shares with us the top 5 advantages and disadvantages of going to Disney in Anaheim.
Welcome to this week's episode of A Drier Dose of Disney. I'm your host, Jared Drier, and today we are going to do the first of a two-part series where we are going to be talking about the best things about going to Disney in Anaheim versus the best things about going to Disney in Orlando. And we're not going to leave out also the worst things about going to each one of those destinations. So that way, when you're planning your next vacation with your family and you're trying to decide, do I go to Disneyland in Anaheim or do I go to Orlando into the Magic Kingdom and Disney World out there? These are some tips and tricks you guys should probably consider and think about because they will impact your stay. They will impact how much it's going to cost. They're going to impact the experience you're going to have at the parks. And we want to be as transparent and as forthcoming as we can. Now, my family and I have been to both parks, both in Anaheim and Orlando, more than a dozen times each. So we can definitely speak to these advantages and these disadvantages today, and we're going to take you through each one. But today we are going to be starting specifically in Anaheim because we want to talk only about California today and what makes it amazing, as well as what are some of the drawbacks. So we will ask, wherever you're listening to us, before you go any further, click pause and go down and click that subscribe button, whether it's on a podcast format or you're watching us on YouTube, because we do have a video format as well. We do want to earn your patronage as a subscriber because it's totally free wherever you're listening to us. And that way you're going to get this content delivered to your inbox each and every single week. Second, we like to ask if there's any tips or tricks that you have listened to that saved you some time or money or made your life a little bit better. You can support us over at Patreon, and that is down in our links in our podcast description. And by being a supporter of Patreon, you help keep this podcast going, as well as you're going to get early access to some of our episodes or some other really cool perks that are out there. And our subscribers, like I said, you guys keep this thing going. So we definitely want to thank you for becoming a subscriber. And you can find us again in the links in the description below. Like I said, this is going to be a two-part series. We're starting in Anaheim. We are going to start with the top 5 worst things about going to Anaheim. And then we're going to go through the top 5 best parts about going to Anaheim. And we're going to wrap up with our I Can Do This All Day tip of the day, which you're definitely going to want to listen to because it does make a big difference in Anaheim. So with that, we're going to dive right into it and we're going to go over the top 5 worst things. And these are in reverse order, meaning the number 5 one's not a huge deal, but when you get down to number 1, it becomes a bigger deal. And likewise, the advantages are the same way. So number 5, when you're thinking about going to Disneyland in Anaheim, you have to realize you're going to the heart of LA, and actually you're on the south side of LA. So you're going to be part of a large metropolitan area that is very busy and it's very chaotic down there, and there's going to be a lot of traffic. In fact, when you're driving into the parks, if you're driving in every single day, you're going to find every single day that you go, you could wind up in a totally different parking lot unless you are targeting the large multi-level garage that's on the northwest side of the park. So if you're coming in from the south side of I-5, when you're coming north, it'll tell you where to exit, and you're going to be directed by light up signs to go to the nearest parking area. And they're usually surface lots, but they're all over Anaheim. They are spread out everywhere. And then when you get to that lot, you're going to be able to pay and park. And then they're going to bring a shuttle by, and that shuttle is going to be picking up all the guests. And they're going to take you over to the main park area. And then at the end of the day, you're going to get back on that same shuttle to go back to your parking lot. Now, this is different, like I said, on the northwest side of the parks, where you have, I believe it's 5 stories. It's either 4 or 5 story parking garage over there that when you go park in the Mickey and Friends lot, when you come down the escalators, you're going to actually get the tram, and the tram is going to drive you around and drop you off at downtown Disney. But be warned, wherever you're coming from within the greater LA area, you're going to have traffic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And though Orlando is somewhat similar because it is a large metropolitan area as well, it's different in the fact that in Orlando, you're going to be able to get into the Disney highway system. And once you're in there, you're going to fly to your destination. So one of the worst things in Anaheim is dealing with the traffic and dealing with the congestion. Now, for most people, though, you're going to be staying close enough to the parks that you can either walk in, you can take their hotel shuttle, You can take the ART bus. You can walk in from the Disney hotels that are there on site, and you may not have to deal with traffic, which is why it's number 5 on our list. Just be warned, when you go to Anaheim in Southern California, you're going to see a lot of traffic, especially if you decide to drive up to Hollywood for the day and go to Universal Studios, or you're going to go about 90 miles south to San Diego to go to SeaWorld, which is an awesome trip. And I went to college in San Diego, so I highly recommend it. But that's a long trip, and you're going to run into a lot of traffic doing that as well. So that's one thing that makes Southern California a little bit worse than some of the other areas, but it's totally survivable. And if we're close to the park, it's not that big of a deal. Number 4 on our list of the top 5 worst things is really something that you have no control over, and it's something more long-term thinking about Disney in Anaheim, and that is that they're getting to the point where they don't have much opportunity to expand. Disney, as you know, is built in Orange County, right in the center of Anaheim there in Southern California, just south of LA, and they are landlocked. They have all the different hotels and restaurants and developments around them already purchased and built up, and that's why their parking lots are all over the place throughout Anaheim. They don't have the opportunity to buy land, and if they do get the opportunity to buy land close to their parks, it's going to come at a huge premium, just because everybody knows that Disney's eventually going to want to expand. Case in point, if you go back in time, Disney, when they built California Adventures in the 90s, had to use their main parking lot to build that out in front of Disneyland itself to have the space to do that, which is what forced them to buy all these other surface lots around Anaheim. So knowing that, they really don't have much potential to expand. So anytime you're going to go in the future, you have to know that for right now, you're going to be dealing with the 2 parks, Disneyland and California Adventure, and in the future, it would be very difficult for them to expand and grow that. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't use a surface lot that's close to their park and maybe grow into that space like they did with the Black Spire Outpost, the Star Wars land at Disneyland, because that's exactly what they did. So they may do these little bits and pieces where they grow small, but you're not going to see another huge park pop up like you could in Orlando. So keep that in mind. Future expansion, if you're thinking down the road, Orlando's always going to have the 4 parks. They could grow that very easily. They obviously have 2 water parks, and they could make more of the land that they've got. In Anaheim, that's not the case. You're dealing with just the 2 parks, and there's really no chance to expand. Like I said, that probably won't impact you in your trip too much, but it is a little bit of a downside to Anaheim in the fact that they really can't do much more than what they've already done. Number 3 on my list is back in the fact that they are stuck in the middle of Anaheim in Orange County. It's in the middle of the city, and the surrounding areas aren't very clean or very nice. So if you're familiar with Southern California, that it was obviously built up a long time ago. Obviously, Disneyland was built in the 50s. And immediately when it went in, you started seeing homes go in around there. And these homes in California are smaller little bungalows. And then they've got on top of it a lot of different restaurants, a lot of hotels, a lot of quick service things that went in around the parks. And because of that, it's a busy area with a lot of foot traffic and a lot of people. And though Disney does a great job of keeping their parks clean, the surrounding Anaheim area isn't the nicest. And that's in part due to the fact that some of these hotels were built in the late 50s and haven't been upgraded since. And likewise, some of the restaurants were built in the late 50s and haven't seen a facelift since then. So when you go there, you're going to feel like it's a little bit tight. It's a little bit dirty. It feels like it's in a rougher area than obviously Orlando and the Disney World area is. And that's totally different because they're so separate out there. But at Disneyland, it feels a little dirty. Now, once you get into the parks themselves, Disney has done a fantastic job keeping them clean, keeping them up to date, and keeping them very polished. So know that your experience there is going to be awesome. But when you're walking between Disneyland and California Adventure and maybe your hotel, you may notice it's not that clean out there, and you may see some homeless people. You may see some rundown hotels or rundown areas. And if you don't feel safe in those areas, I can tell you, you may feel more comfortable in Orlando, where it's built up more like a resort. It's very Florida with a lot of palm trees, a lot of greenery, a lot of swimming pools, and it's just a totally different environment between the 2 areas. I'm sure you can go online and Google some pictures out there to get a better idea of what I'm talking about. But just know, in the general Anaheim area, it is dirty. It's Southern California. It's not as nice as Orlando. Number 2 on my list of the worst things, and this is really going to be up to the individual based on what your plans are for staying at a resort or being close to the parks. There's fewer resort hotels. meaning that there's really only 3 hotels out there at Disneyland in Anaheim. You've got the Grand Californian, you've got the Disneyland Hotel, and then they've got the Pier Hotel, which butts up next to California Adventure as well. That's a taller high rise. All 3 are really nice. All 3 have great rooms, great ambiance, great experiences there. So if you want to be on a resort, we definitely recommend it. All 3 are within walking distance very easily of all of the parks and downtown Disney and all the things that you can do down there. So it's great to stay on site down there. The difference, though, of course, is when you're considering Orlando. Orlando's got dozens of hotels around Disney World. They've got every type of class of hotel, meaning from your least expensive motel style, like Art of Animation and the All-Star Sports Resort or the Movie Resort, all the way up to the Grand Floridian, which is their highest level hotel there. And then you've got the Polynesian, the Contemporary, tons of resort hotels out in Orlando. In Anaheim, you only have 3, so you have a little bit lower of a selection. And because of that, you don't have as many pricing options. So if you're considering staying on site, you may want to look to Orlando over Anaheim just because they're going to have more selection and more options and opportunity for you down there. But I can say I've stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. It's awesome. I definitely love it. I've been in the Grand Californian a few different times. I've had a couple meals there at the restaurants there. It is a gorgeous hotel, and it does give you early access into California Adventure because they have their own access park. And it's a really cool hotel to stay at. So definitely worth doing it if you're able to. One quick tip here when we're talking hotels out at Disneyland in Anaheim is if you've got some money and you're looking to really treat your family, the Disneyland Hotel has some really cool signature suites. They have one themed around Pirates of the Caribbean. They've got one around the Jungle Cruise. And I encourage you, go online and just check them out. Look at the pictures there. It's incredible. I want to stay in one of those rooms if I ever can. So if you're listening and you're thinking about it, those rooms can hold usually, I believe it's more than 8 people in each of the rooms. If you don't have 8 people and you need someone to go with you, call me. I will go with you if I can stay in one of those suites. And then I will tour the parks with you and I will take you around and show you all the shortcuts and get you to the front of the lines wherever I can. But the resort hotels there are awesome. Check out those suites. I want to go with you though if you ever get the chance. The last worst thing, and to a lot of people, this isn't a bad thing, but it is a strong point of consideration that I do want to make everyone aware of. Disneyland Park itself is huge. It, in my opinion, should be 2 parks. It is definitely larger than the Magic Kingdom out in Orlando, and it is very difficult to see everything in one day. So I highly encourage you plan to spend at least 2 full days at the Disneyland Park, or maybe a full day at Disneyland Park, full day at California Adventure, and then maybe you park hop between the 2 on a 3rd day. But I will tell you, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't know that you can see everything in one day over at Disneyland. I will say before they did the Black Spire Outpost, which is the Star Wars land, it was pretty tight. You could probably do it. In fact, we have had quite a few days where we were there from rope drop all the way through the end of the fireworks and even stayed later than that. And we rode everything we wanted to ride, meaning there were rides we skipped. For example, if you listen to my ride episode, we always skip Autopia just because when you get out there on the pavement, it's very hot. Those cars don't go very fast. It's not a very fun ride. So we always skip that one. But if we wanted to ride everything, I don't know that we could have done it in one day, but with skipping some of those rides like that, my wife doesn't love the teacups and it's not my favorite either. So we'll skip the teacups. We are able to get through the whole park and ride all the rides we want to ride in one day. Now that there's Star Wars Land, granted, it only added 2 additional rides, but if you listen to those episodes about Disneyland, some of the best foods are back there. You've got the blue milk, green milk. There's a lot to see at Black Spire Outpost. So you're going to want to spend a good portion of your day there. Once you do that, you are not going to be able to ride every single one of the big rides at Disneyland and get through the entire park and see all the shows and really enjoy yourself at a good leisurely pace unless you're going to spend more than one day there. So I will say that is one piece of a downside. I think that you can't get through the whole park in one day, but if you're planning multiple days, then you don't have to worry about it. Then you're totally okay and you're going to have plenty of time to see the park. The longest trip we ever did to Disneyland with my family was 4 days, and we spent 2 full days at each park. And I will say that was too much. We got through, obviously, most of Disneyland in one day. When we came back for the second day, it was great to go ride those rides we missed and then hit our favorites once again. We took the time then to go see all the shows. We wanted to see Mr. Lincoln. We wanted to go see the Country Bears. we wanted to do all those little things that we skipped the first day just because we were rushing through the park. But going to California Adventure for 2 full days was too much. We didn't need that much time at the parks. We were able to do most of California Adventure in 1 day, and the second day wasn't needed. So that's why I said maybe 3 days where you do a full day in each one and then park hop that last one. You could definitely see everything if you did that, as long as you're moving and you keep good pace. So that takes me now to our top 5 best things about Anaheim. And let me tell you, these are game changers in the sense that some of these make going to Anaheim less expensive and much better trip than going out to Orlando. And the first one, number 5 on my list, the lowest on my list, is actually a really big perk. And that's that the Anaheim, LA area has 5 major airports, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, that make getting to LA a lot less expensive because you can shop the different airports and different airlines and find a cheaper ticket. Unlike Orlando, where you only have one major international airport and everyone's flying in and out of that same airport. In the LA area, let's start with LAX, is the most popular and the largest international airport there. Most people think about flying in and out of LAX. I will tell you, I avoid it at all costs for 2 reasons. One, it's way too busy of an airport. And number 2, it's off the 405 freeway. If you have never been to Southern California and driven on the 405 freeway, you will learn very quickly when you do, you want to avoid the 405 at all costs. It is way too slow. It gets backed up way too easy. And it's not uncommon to get stuck on the 405 for multiple hours without moving at all because something has happened on the freeway. So I try to avoid LAX at all costs, and I will do everything I can to get into one of the other 4 airports as long as it's cost effective. So that's one quick tip right out of the gates is try to avoid LAX at all costs. My favorite airport, and the one that I tried to go to the most, is John Wayne, or also known as Orange County Airport. And this is only a few miles away from Disney. It is a very clean airport. It's a very busy airport, but they crank planes and people through that airport very quickly, meaning you're not going to have really long security wait times. You're going to be able to get in and out pretty quickly. You're going to be able to get a rental car pretty easily if you want to at John Wayne. And it is a great airport to fly in and out of. The trouble is a lot of people have figured out that secret, and a lot of people like to go to John Wayne, Orange County Airport. Because of that, what's going to end up happening is your ticket prices could be a little bit higher than some of the other area airports that are out there. But John Wayne is definitely a good go-to for us. It's also, I said it was Orange County Airport. It's also known as Santa Ana Airport. So there's a lot of names depicting this airport, but you definitely want to check that one out because that's one of the closest to Disney, and it's one of the easiest to get in and out of because it is butted up against multiple freeways, and you can cut horizontally between the 5 and the 405 to get to it very easily as well. So John Wayne is our number 1 pick to go there. Our number 2 pick on these airports is Long Beach. And Long Beach is a very small airport where baggage claim is outside. So be warned of that if it's going to be rainy. We have stood out in the rain. It is a little bit covered and that helps. But Long Beach is a great airport because you can usually get really inexpensive flights out of Long Beach and you're not too far away from Disney. Now you may have to cut through the city a little bit to get back over to Disney in Anaheim, but it's totally worth it. And what I love about Long Beach is Southwest flies through there and their tickets to Long Beach are always the least expensive. So that's where we're going to usually go to when we're looking for the best price is flying Southwest to Long Beach. The other 2 airports are Ontario, which is about a 45-minute drive, maybe a little bit longer. It's out east of LA, but it's a great airport to get in and out of. That one I have flown in and out of probably 6 times because I went to school over at Pomona College for a bit. And that airport's actually very easy to get in and out of. So you don't have to worry about the congestion or the 405 like you would with LAX. We really love Ontario. The only downside is it's a little bit further away. So when you're driving and you're going to experience a little more traffic and it's going to take you a little longer. The last airport I've actually never flown into myself, that's Burbank. And I have a friend who loves Burbank because he lives on the northern side of LA. And for him, he says that's the easiest airport for him to get in and out of. But I've heard great things about Burbank, mostly through him. And so I definitely encourage you to check out Burbank. Whenever we've looked at it compared to the other ones, the prices are usually a little bit cheaper and you're closer to Disney anyways. So we're usually going to go to the other ones, but Burbank is always also a great option for you as well. So 5 airports in the greater LA area that you can fly in and out of makes it way more convenient to get there. Number 4, and you're going to hear this also on the Orlando episode, is there are some rides that are just plain better in Anaheim. And that's when you compare Disneyland to the Magic Kingdom out at Disney World, and then California Adventure to Hollywood Studios or some of the other parks out there. So let me go through real quick some of the rides that are much, much better in California than they are over in Orlando. So if you have a kid or someone who really is interested in one of these rides, that's a point of consideration that they are much better over in Anaheim for these following rides. First is Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean obviously opened first in Anaheim, and the way they set it up within the building is just awesome. It's got multiple drops through the ride. The ride's just a little bit longer. It's a little bit more in depth. They've definitely brought in the elements from the new Pirates movies with a lot of fog effects and cool things like that. As far as the ride content goes, it's very similar to what you're going to get in Orlando. But my family and I, all hands down, easily would say the one in Anaheim's better with multiple drops and the smoke effects and what they do at the projections in Anaheim. So Pirates of the Caribbean's a little bit better. Now, I will say between the two, these two are probably the closest. They are very similar between the two, but we do like Anaheim better. Next on the list is Space Mountain. Space Mountain in Anaheim is 10 times better than Space Mountain in Orlando. And that's because Orlando was actually built first, and they use the same toboggan style that you have at the Matterhorn out in Anaheim. Now, the toboggan style ride is where people are sitting one in front of the other. You get 3 people per car. 2 cars are tethered together, so 6 people go at one time. But if you've ridden the Matterhorn or if you've not done Space Mountain between the two parks, know that in Orlando, it is much more jerky, and it's going to rattle you a lot more in that toboggan style. Out in Anaheim, this is your traditional coaster where it's 2 people per row. You're sitting side by side. It is much more comfortable. It's a much smoother ride. And in fact, Space Mountain at Anaheim, it's 10 times the better ride than what you're going to get over in Orlando. So know that if you have somebody who loves Space Mountain, Anaheim's is much better. Now, I've heard that Disney Paris actually even has a better one. And someday we hope to go see that. And so we'll update you when we get a chance to do that. Next is a difference between California Adventure and Hollywood Studios. If you're familiar with the two parks, Hollywood Studios has the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which in Anaheim was updated to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. And I will say Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is 10 times the ride of Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And that's because they incorporated great music into the ride, much like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. But it's just a much more fun ride with the music and the fact that when you go up and down, they stop you on different floors. They open up the doors. They have huge LED screens, and they're playing out scenes with the Guardians of the Galaxy on each floor that you stop at. So it's a really cool experience. Every single time you ride it, it's going to be totally unique, and it makes the ride 10 times more fun to have the music and Rocket Raccoon driving your car up and down and dropping you and going crazy. So know that at California Adventure, Mission Breakout is a much better ride than the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. So if you don't like the Tower of Terror, if it scares you a little bit, trust me when I say you want to try Mission Breakout. It's an amazing ride, and it's one of my all-time favorites at Anaheim. Next is one of my wife's favorites, and she's going to really love this call out, and that's It's a Small World. It's a Small World in Anaheim is obviously in its own building, and it is 10 times the ride that it is in Orlando. And though the rides are very similar, much like Pirates of the Caribbean is very similar, what makes the difference on the It's a Small World in Anaheim is they have incorporated Disney characters into almost every single scene. So as you're going through and you go through the Egypt, Cairo room, you're going to see Aladdin and Jasmine. When you go through the Hawaii room, you're going to see Lilo and Stitch. When you go through the American Western room, you're going to see Woody and Jessie with their cowboy hats and spinning ropes and doing those kind of things, which they do not have out in Orlando. With Orlando, it's the traditional kids all singing the song, which the song's the same in both places, but you don't get these really cool call outs with Disney characters. So because of that, we think hands down the one in Anaheim is a much better ride than the one in Orlando. The next ride is Buzz Lightyear. Though these are very similar rides, there are some key differences. In Anaheim, you have the ability to freely control your gun and move the gun around. In Orlando, it's fixed to the cart and you are stuck just turning it and trying to angle it within the cart. That makes a huge difference. And because of that, we think Buzz Lightyear is also much better in Anaheim than it is out in Orlando. Our final one was actually one that was just updated, and that is Thunder Mountain Railroad over at Anaheim. And they did a really good job with updating it with some really cool special effects. They have an explosion as you go up one hill, like the dynamite's going off, and they just made it a little bit better than what you're going to find in Orlando that doesn't have those special effects. Now, for the most part, like Pirates, the ride's almost identical, but the special effects that they put into Anaheim really do set the bar a lot higher and do make that into a better ride. So those are number 4 reason why Anaheim may be better for you is through those different rides. Number 3 is actually the weather in Anaheim is going to be better than the weather in Orlando. Now in Anaheim, you're going to have this consistent 80-degree type of weather, which is similar to Orlando, but you're not going to have the humidity and you're not going to have the rain. So all in all, Anaheim is usually a much more pleasant environment to go to. Now, the difference is during the winter months, it does get much colder in Anaheim than it does in Florida, and that's just based on where they are in the US. But in Anaheim, you're definitely going to want a jacket, sweatshirt, and dress warm during the winter months, where in Florida, you may be able to get away with maybe pants and a short sleeve shirt or maybe long sleeve shirt in the coldest months of the year. And though we recommend in our top 10 things to bring with you episode, we recommend bringing a jacket or sweatshirt for going into cold restaurants with AC. Typically, you're not going to really need it out in Orlando, except for first thing in the morning and last thing at night during the winter months. So the weather's a little bit nicer in Anaheim. That could be a driving factor for you to go there. Number 2 on the list is actually, I think it's almost number 1. It was very close in competing for the best things in Anaheim. But number 2 on the list is the park hopping. The reason it's number 2 on the list is you are able to go between Disneyland and California Adventure by walking about 200 yards between the front gates. It is very quick and very easy to get between these two parks. You don't have to ride the monorail. You don't have to take a tram. You don't have to go anywhere. You're able to go right back to the front of the park, walk out, walk across the little entryway there, and you're able to go right into the other park. That makes a huge difference when it comes to park hopping and saving time. In fact, some of our friends who go there will talk about some of the advantages of getting Lightning Lane when they have a park hopper pass between the parks, where they can schedule between both parks and get a ride over here and then walk back over and get another ride at another park that they wanted to hit. Now, this was also prior to Genie Plus, it was called Max Pass. And that's when we talked to them about it. But they said it was great. They would go get on a roller coaster, something that their family wanted to ride. And now, hey, there's a Max Pass that opened up, or now Lightning Lane for Mission Breakout. And that's in 45 minutes. And we can definitely make that. So we're going to walk over, park hop, go do that one. Maybe they'll do a couple more rides and then they'll walk back over to Disneyland. And it's easy to jump back and forth and use your Lightning Lanes a lot quicker if you have that service available to you. So that is a huge advantage of being able to go to Anaheim, is being able to get between those parks very quickly. I'll take it a step further and let you know that Downtown Disney is right there on site as well. If you want to spend time at Downtown Disney at the end of your day, or maybe you want to do some more shopping, that is right there on site. So that makes it very easy as well to do that park hopping and shopping at Downtown Disney. So that's a huge advantage. Our final advantage is actually the fact that in Anaheim, you have some very unique areas to the park that Orlando just doesn't have. So first and foremost, probably the most popular area out in Anaheim is Cars Land over at California Adventure. So if you're a fan of the Lightning McQueen car series, they have a whole Cars Land with Cozy Cone motels where you can get some great food. And we talked about that on the California Adventure episode, as well as Flo's B8 Cafe. You've got Radiator Springs Racers, which is a really fun ride. And they've got this really cool dedicated land to the Cars Land. So that is some kids' favorite thing about Disney is cars and seeing Lightning McQueen. And so if you want to see that, you're going to have to go to Anaheim to see it. On top of it, they've got some other really cool areas like Pixar Pier. And though some of the rides, the Toy Story rides, are the same between the two parks, Pixar Pier is very unique. And they've got the Incredicoaster there. That's a lot of fun, but it's a really great part of the park. And then also California Adventure, you have the Marvel campus that was just installed. And though they only have the Mission Breakout ride and the Spider-Man ride, I'm sure in the future they will be adding more to this Marvel campus. And you do not have a Marvel campus out in Orlando. And that's due to the competition with Universal and the fact Universal has some of the rights to some of those characters still. So if you want to read about that, go online and you can get a lot of great info about that. Over at Disneyland, you also have Toontown, which is actually a really cool area. And they just added Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is a similar ride to what you've got out at Hollywood Studios. But you also have Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. That's a really fun ride. But they've done very well theming this land. So you can go back there. You can go to Mickey's house. You can go to Donald's boat. You have Gadgets Go coaster. A lot of really cool things in this back area of Toontown. So I highly encourage you guys to visit that if you get a chance. That is totally unique to Anaheim, and you don't have that out in Orlando. The last two are unique rides that you don't have. First and foremost is Indiana Jones, the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. That one's awesome. That one's a great ride. It's very similar to the dinosaur ride out at Animal Kingdom in Orlando, but I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and this ride does not disappoint. It is fantastic. It is a ton of fun. It can be a little more intense for some of your younger kids, but it's a great ride, or definitely one you want to see. And then finally, the Matterhorn is one of the classic rides at Disneyland where you get to meet the abominable snowman. And though you get to do that at Animal Kingdom in Orlando, the Matterhorn is just a classic ride. It's a lot of fun. It is very jerky. Again, going back to Space Mountain style, it's that toboggan style. And so you're going to feel it as you go through the ride, but it's a unique ride that Orlando just doesn't have. So that's very nostalgic for us as well. And we really love the Matterhorn. So those are the top 5 best things about Anaheim. Let me wrap it up today by talking to you about our I Can Do This All Day tip of the day. And that is one of the biggest key differences, and we talked about it earlier, in Anaheim is you can stay very close to the resort and actually walk into the resort if you're within walking distance, meaning you're going to save money on parking. It's going to be quick and easy to get in and out. Maybe you just want to walk over and go to downtown Disney, or maybe you're going to walk into the parks for the day. That makes Anaheim a little bit easier and a little bit more accessible to get around. What I recommend is when you go to Anaheim, you definitely want to check out the hotels that are very close in proximity, whether it's a resort hotel or a good neighbor hotel, or maybe you're even going to look at a Vrbo or Airbnb that's really close by. But in any case, you're going to be able to walk into the parks, which is not the case in Orlando unless you're staying on site and they take you by tram or by the monorail or by one of the sky rides into the parks. Because of that, Anaheim gets the little bit of the edge for accessibility when it comes to staying close to the parks. And our tip of the day is definitely investigate those options and stay as close to the parks as you can. That'll save you some money on the parking. And like I said, you can just walk in whenever you want. So with that, we wish you a magical week and hope you have fun planning your next vacation. You definitely want to tune in next week as we talk about the top 5 things with Orlando in comparison to Anaheim. And hopefully one of these makes your decision a little bit easier when you're planning your next vacation. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.